Good morning, everyone, and it's indeed a pleasure to follow Ed and also to be able to have an exchange with our colleagues here from West Monroe. Their names are here, but what we really look forward to is a discussion about what do they bring to the market, and how can they help us? So it's really going to be an exciting thing. Let me point out that we are not endorsing Dasani water. It just happens to be there. You know, typically you have to cover the water up so you're not advertising. So with that, I'm going to get seated. There is a little bit of a tricky part here, so we don't roll off the stage. But it's indeed a pleasure to invite Maya and Josh to a discussion, which always starts with wanting to know more about West Monroe. And I would like to just say, tell me more about West Monroe.
I can do that. I'll start. So, hi, my name is Josh Copeland, and I have been working in the healthcare industry since 2012. My very first project was helping a payer navigate and prepare for ACA reform starting in 2012. And as many of you in this room, based on your own experiences, know, there was a lot to change and to get ready for when we were preparing for that change. And you know, here we are 10 years later, and still it is very much part of what we're doing. So my experience is with West Monroe. It's a consulting firm, and all of my time, I'd say about 8 years, has been with health payer. And I spent a couple years working in the dental and ancillary space as well. Maya?
Hi, everyone. My name is Maya Sharif. I am a senior manager with West Monroe. My experience, I've been in the healthcare and life sciences space for the last 15 years. So in addition to the healthcare side, also working on the life sciences side with a lot of regulatory and compliance, kind of similar type of transparency work, and similar to what we're doing here.
I totally forgot to mention, I'm actually working with one of our payer clients right now as they are implementing the No Surprises Act and Consolidated Appropriations Act transparency and coverage legislation. And that has been also a journey over the last a little over a year. West Monroe.
All the good stuff we talked about yesterday, yes. That's your life.
Very much, very much. A large team's life. So West Monroe, traditional management consulting firm that is 20 years old. We celebrate our 20th anniversary this year. It is in a number of industries: financial services, energy and utilities, consumer and industrial products. But within the healthcare and life sciences space, we have a fledgling practice that at least in West Monroe, there's approximately 9 offices, Chicago-based. In Chicago, approximately 175 consulting professionals just in healthcare. And we have the 4 subverticals of health payer, dental, and ancillary services, health systems, and then life sciences. And we help the industry navigate change so much that we are actually doing today. We've seen a number of acquisitions that are in digital product space, IT transformation, operational transformation in the last 3 years, and I think at the end of the day, we're here to help and work with many of you in the industry to make the change that the government is bringing to us.
Great. And just does the name West Monroe come from West Monroe Street?
It is coincidentally We do even have an address on Monroe, but it was formed out of the ashes of Arthur Anderson, and the change that occurred when Enron obviously did not choose the right path in its own management and governance. And so 20 years ago, they created it is on West Monroe Street now.
Oh, okay. So going back to when you first joined WEDI, can you tell me why you did that and how you feel and that you're getting out of, what are you getting out of working with WEDI?
Yeah, I'll take it. It's been a couple of years now, and I think we're ultimately looking for a two-way street. That two-way street is, you know, a lot of our younger professionals need to know what all of the change that's occurring in the industry, as it's happening. They need to be familiar, they need to be educated, and WEDI is a really good resource for the change that is happening through so much of the working groups and some of the publications that occur. It's really helpful for our people to be smart. At the same time, I think we want to be able to offer our own experiences and expertise of working with a number of stakeholders in each of these industries and share what we're knowing from their experiences.
And the other piece to it is just like with this wide range of folks here, like really you all are influencers of what the final outcomes are going to be. So we have these rules that are brought down and then solve it. So here we are, like even just here today, some of the discussions we had yesterday, like we want to be a part of that initial influence of what gets ultimately established from an operational perspective. So really happy to be a part of the group here.
So looking ahead, let's say 5 years from now, what do you see the landscape looking like from your perspective?
Yeah, it's some of the big focus areas that we see are around patient centricity, health equity, and affordability of healthcare. So on the patient centricity front, like we see a lot of this patient-driven healthcare. Like I want things on my app. I had a service done last week. I get the claim in. I'm like, all right, what's my I need to know now. I want to know now. Increasing consumerism. Again, that's kind of along the same lines, but everyone is used to being able to shop for anything else. Healthcare services are along the same vein. And then personalized healthcare. We also see a lot of this concierge medicine. So if those type of service providers are there and that's a choice and you're really paying the same amount, then a lot of the lives are going to go to that area. So just patient centricity, keeping the patient in mind, which is a lot of what we also want to do as we're thinking through in some of these work groups. What would the patient say if they had a seat at the table? Because although they aren't physically there, we should imagine that they are still there having that seat at the table. From a health equity front, you hear a lot about that now. Really, in health equity, I think we kind of have the same understanding of that, but that's the ability to achieve, everyone's ability to achieve their health potential, regardless of whatever their social circumstance or other non-elective situation is. So if they're in a rural setting, if they have other type of situation. So making sure that that access is there for everyone. And then lastly, the affordability of healthcare. I mean, we talked a lot yesterday on the No Surprises Act, making sure that when folks go in for service, they really understand what they are going to be paying, not getting surprise bills, not going into debt because of a service that that's not electable. They had to go in for that. So again, the patient centricity, health equity, and affordability of healthcare. And a lot of what the folks here with WEDI are doing is for the data that goes along with it. So Josh mentioned some of the digital acquisitions that we have. In order for all of this to happen, really we need the data. We need it to be accurate. We need it to be accessible. We need it to be interoperable. And so being able to solve those challenges with the minds that we have here is really what we see. So In short, patient centricity, health equity, affordability of healthcare, and using the data to be able to solve some of those challenges.
Need to add?
You nailed it. No, I when it comes to affordability, much of you in the industry are also challenged with the administrative burdens of your own costs, and how some of those costs are passed on to the consumer, but a lot of them need to be constrained. So leveraging technology better. Obviously, today is going to focus all of the conversation on how we are actually becoming interoperable, how we are surfacing data from inside our organizations and making it available. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
So how do you, in knowing what you do about WEDI, and you've talked about so many of our focus areas, being one more specifically, we talked about health equity and SDOH data and data exchange, and et cetera. What are some of the things that you think we should be focusing on to make this a some high-level topics that we should be looking at?
Yeah. I think at this point, what are we up to, like 20 work groups? It's but health equity is one of those, around like maybe having some telehealth capabilities so that folks in rural settings or other settings who would otherwise not be able to access that care. One thing, also, I'll just go back to the patient centricity piece. So as we have each of these work groups, just again remembering that, what would the patient think? So I know yesterday we each broke out into our various breakout groups to talk about the good faith estimates. And as we got there, we were really going into the weeds of, well, then it's going to have the $400, and then like what would the provider have to make? Would they make multiple estimates? All of this, but then no one was really talking about, what about the patient on the other side, like them getting 7 different estimates, all of that. So I'd say the direction that WEDI is going now is fantastic with the health equity, with all the electronic data interchange groups, really keeping that, but also overlaying the lens of what about the patient, the ultimate patient.
Sounds like you've been listening in on some of our work groups. But when we keep saying that whatever we do, we have to do on behalf of the patient, focusing on the patient more of the consumerism piece. So that's certainly in line with our discussions at many of the work groups.
When we think, so none of us could have, so if we were to look into the future, I think we would talk to the January 2020 version of ourselves and say, oh, we have a very clear sense of where we're headed into the future. And then February 2020 arrived, on the scene for us. And that really did change and accelerate so many aspects of the work that you are doing in this room. We all, in many ways, had to shift so much virtually overnight to be working in different spaces. This is the first time I've been in a conference and seen professionals in years. And what have we been doing? We have been in Zoom, right? If we have had to learn anything over the last 2 years, it is what digital connectivity actually means to us. I have a mental health professional that I have had a telehealth invite for the last year and a half. We meet every week, and I am able to do that in a way that was never available before. And so really, this group, the people in this room, are harnessing the technology that actually enables care. It can actually enable a better, more seamless experience. It can allow, if I need to get a monkeypox vaccine in my near future, I now have an ability with certain providers to see what that time to schedule that appointment will be. And that's really beneficial to the person. It's also beneficial to you as organizations because you are enabling those capabilities. And so, you know, as we have a lot of the conversations we'll have today about fire, and what that is enabling, it is so much. It is what can be the future of each of you in this room, and what you are in particular going to do with it, how you are going to enable it. And it'll matter because costs are only increasing, and the complexity of how we navigate all of this is only increasing, right? And the government is not going anywhere, and it is not going to be less complex in the future. So I'm energized to be here. I'm excited to hear a lot of the dialogue today. Who knows what the next 3 years brings us, right? But I don't know.
But we're in it together.
Yes.
We can do
Let's
it.
get it started.
Let's get started then. I really appreciate your remarks today, and look forward to your continuing support and participation in work groups at WEDI. And just to say, it's great. It's great to let's roll up our sleeves and move on into the next session.
Fantastic. Thank you.